I'm just taking a few minutes to pause because I've come from making the terrible mistake of turning the news on today. We're a couple of days after the election, and it's pretty noisy again. In fact, it's been noisy for years. And I wanted to share with you this with you because one of the reasons I wrote the book on conditional communication was because I was trying to work out why it had got so noisy and what how it was affecting people and how it was draining our energy and making us feel doubtful and confused and upset and angry, and what could we do about that. And one of the things that I feel very strongly about, and I've entitled this slide Public Engagement and Collective Conversations That Matter, because I truly believe this could help how we shift the nature of the public discourse in the US and around the world away from that anger and that vitriol and that right, wrong, good, bad, and all that stuff. But it's going to be true for you if you're thinking about the next time you bring any large group of people together in your organization. I don't know when we're going to get back to having sort of global meetings and flying all together to be in some great big meeting room together and having a 2 or 3 day offsite. I don't know if we'll ever get back to that. But even if you have a collection of people coming on a Zoom call or a Teams call, and there are more than 20 or 30 people there, then perhaps bear this in mind. And it's a very, very simple idea. It's based on the idea that the shape of the world, and thank you to Peter Block for pointing this out to me, the shape of the world is a triangle. We are conditioned to look up to see who's in control. Right now, we're going to try and find out who's going to be the president of the United States. We're looking up to see who's going to be in control of the whole damn thing called America. Organizations are like that still, even though we've spent years and years flattening them and putting them into all sorts of hybrid structures. The human mind still thinks in terms of hierarchy, particularly when it comes to power relationships. And the idea here is that what has tended to happen in human societies, in public engagement, in public meetings, in town hall meetings, in expert panels, even in TED.com, even when we go to a conference for great speakers, what we do with that triangle is we take it from pointing up to, we flip it on its axis, and we point it to the front of the room. And so whereas on this axis of the triangle, we're all looking up and we're all somewhere distributed down the pyramid there, when we turn it on its axis, all of a sudden we are in various relationships to the back of the room. And what this is doing is pointing to the front of the room as the source apparently of what we need. Because again, that's been the conditioning, that there is somebody or a small number of people who have something for us at the front of the room, which apparently we need. And so if you think about going to a conference, all the table, we might have sort of put people sitting in circles at tables, but we're all looking at a stage. And beyond the stage, we're looking at a big screen where some of the slides are. But we're all looking to the front of the room, because what we have been conditioned as members of society, as citizens in societies, and as employees in organizations, we've been told that what we are looking for to get from the front of the room is information, is instruction, and possibly some inspiration. Nothing wrong with any of those three I's: information, instruction, or inspiration. Nothing wrong with them. It's just that we have overvalued those things, and apparently their source at the front of the room, as the thing that causes change to happen. And it doesn't. So we look to the front of the room, we get some information, we get some instruction, and we get some inspiration. And then what happens? We wait and see how it's going to turn out. And there are occasions when this structure is very important. My middle son, Sam, is a engineering student at CU in Boulder learning how to be an aero engineer. And so he has spent a lot of his last 4 years in this formation, looking to the front of the room, because at the front of the room, there is a person whose brain is as big as a planet, teaching Sam and his fellow students the formulae and the facts and the knowledge that they need to be aero engineers. So there are times when the front of the room is a very good structure, but not when we are faced with the complexity of the issues, the wicked problems, somebody once called them, that we are facing today. Racial inequality is not going to get solved from the front of the room, no matter how inspired we leave from that speaker. Climate change is not going to get solved from the front of the room, no matter how smart that scientist is, telling us, trust me, it's a problem. The division and the toxicity in America at the moment is not going to get solved, whoever is the president at the front of the room. These issues are complex, they are multifaceted, they are human-made, and if they've been made by human beings, then we need to tap into the potential of all human beings, or more human beings, to solve them. And that's where the circle comes in. So we move the shape from looking to the front of the room, we get the necessary amount of information, we get the necessary amount of instruction, the necessary amount of that icing on the cake, which is inspiration. And then we get into a circle and we look each other in the eye and we start to say, what are we going to do with that information? What are we going to do with that instruction? What are we going to do with that inspiration? Because we are part of the problem and we can work out how we can be part of the solution. This is what's called being a citizen. Not turning up to vote every 4 years and then waiting to see how they do. Because the problem with these shapes is that they confer identity. When we spend the majority of our lives looking to the front of the room, the identity that gets reinforced is our job is to be an audience. A good audience, perhaps. A willing audience, perhaps. But an audience. And perhaps when we're looking to the front of the room, we also get reinforced that what we are going to be is a giver of feedback. So I voted for you. I will let you know how you do. You're my new boss. I'll wait for the feedback forms and let you know how you're getting on. So our identity becomes audience member who occasionally gives feedback. Whereas when we turn to one another and tap into our collective wisdom, to look at the problem that we are faced in society or in this organization. When we turn to one another in the circle, the identity that gets reinforced is actor, agent of change, somebody who's going to be asked to do something, however small, however big, but somebody who's going to be asked when we leave this circle to do something a little bit different than when they came. And they're going to get together with other people in the circle to create teams and to create groups who can reinforce each other's actions and behavior so that things really begin to shift. In this way, we become agents of change and not victims of it or objects of somebody else's idea of what change should look like. So there we go. From the triangle to the front of the room to the circle, turning to one another.